finishing of your mobile phone, sample, and the motion, as you may all be aware, this way this sounds regress. Right, so let's invite the Prime Minister to open the beginning.
Screw it. I think I have a timer. Hold on. Okay. The church is a place of worship and authenticity. We abhor the concept of millennial churches because it dilutes the image and the concept of the church as a whole on what we try to preach society and in the method of bringing in more followers. Moreover, we think that we'll push away the majority of the followers that exist that currently exist in the church right now. Let's quickly clarify what is debate about. This debate is about prioritize the attracting of the younger generation if that comes at the expense of tradition and the contradictory and the contradictory principle towards Christianity as a whole. And we think there's nothing less of that. So it's a debate. It's a debate about modernization and the authenticity of the church as a whole. In my speech, I will present two arguments with sufficient amount of characterization, right? Firstly, on what is a failure in spreading worship as a whole, exactly how will you lose your traditional followers? Before I move on to my standard, sure.
Do you actually think there's only one objective way to worship?
Not necessarily. We don't think so. But right? There's not one way of worshiping God. But if you try to, when you try to consider Christianity, modernization, we think that bring many harms, right? And I explained that in my speech. So, firstly, what is a failure in spreading worship as a whole? Let's quickly characterize. Firstly, we think that churches is basically a place of sanctuary, right? So people come here in brokenness and confusion, right, to find the help of God as a whole, because they think that religion can be within the scenario, right? Sit down. So they come to church because they want to get rid of this brokenness and confusion as a whole. Secondly, we think that churches are against the idea of commercialization, or religion is against the idea of commercialization because it contradicts and dilutes the biblical perception of the church, right? For example, how Jesus whips individuals who sell stuff in front of the church in the Bible, right? It's assumed that he doesn't like the concept of commercialization in the church as well. So it's a form of conviction, right? If you want to modernize these types of concepts, sit down. Why is the perversion of what church stands for in the first place? Because I think that these millennial churches are filled with sensational and flashy types of entertainment, right? And why is it? These are like things like concert style worship, like smoke the foggers, or a cafe that want to sensationalize church. So we think that the church causes the church to become inauthentic and non-serious as a whole, right? Because of contradictory principle. No, sit down. What is the harm in this? We think the harm is that more young people will not find the happiness that the church provides them, right? because these young people go to, because these young people go to the church because they find the biblical value of the church, to find that happiness and join us in the first place, right? So if you conceptualize the church as a modernized place, we think that you dilute the image, or you don't dilute the happiness and to the happiness that these churches provide towards the happiness that these churches provide towards the young people that want to come to the church. So the basic harm is that young people will not find happiness, and you will lose these young people, right? Because you dilute the image of no, sit down. Because you dilute the image of church. But second harm, we think the millennial churches are selling out. They are selling out their basic. They're commercializing. The harm of commercializing to increase their base area is this. Doing so, in doing commercialization, you do not stay in the true principles of Christianity, right? As I explained to you before, how the Bible perceives commercialization as a bad thing, right? The harm in this is that the church will lose relevance and doesn't take the concept of teaching or preaching seriously, right? So it fails to spread opinion or perceive opinions by these religious individuals that come to church, right? That come to church for help. So now you deny them because you conceptualize the church as a modernized place to attract more and to attract young individuals, but you don't necessarily cater to the ones who come for the biblical value of the church. Before I move on to my second argument, sure.
Are you principally against the evolution of religion in terms of accepting homosexuals, or like Pope Francis, supporting homosexuality?
Yes, we think so, but yes, we do think so, because it is we think that it is harmful for the individuals that are called devoted individuals of the church, right? But if you go to the extreme extent of modernizing the church, we think we will lose followers. My second argument on how will you lose your traditional followers, more on the followers itself, right? A fact: 67% of followers are made up of conservative individuals, right? And they make up a majority of the church. These are conservative, devoted individuals. Church against certain perceptions. They're against certain modernized perceptions that the church tries to provide. So, but even if you try to bring in these young individuals, you think that you will lose your main followers, right? If you conceptualize the church, if your goal is if your goal is bringing new individuals by commercialization, and commercialization only pushes away the larger majority of the church, we think that is harmful. What are the harms towards this? What are the harms if you push away these types of devoted conservative individuals? Firstly, we think that parents will really stop bringing their children to church, right? Because they perceive the church. These conservative parents will perceive church as a place of with no exposure as a whole, right? So this reduces the exposure that will get towards religion, whether he's supposed to in the first place. And even if he gets exposure in future, we think that it's not enough, right? And he needs to get exposure when he's young. Secondly, we think that powerful conservative followers will stop funding the church. Just like organizations that fund the church for their principles of working for the church, right? So this will diminish the ability of the church to taking care of service and providing things providing things like soup kitchen, right? Because they have less support from these type of organizations in the first place. So for all those reasons, millennial churches only lose majority of support, and we lose the idea of the idea and the authenticity of religion as a whole.
So eager.
All because majority of followers of God are bigoted people who hate homosexuals, therefore we must pander to them. That's the rhetoric the side government is giving you. Because in most essence, they are okay with religious people going against LGBT laws and things like that. To be able to personalize your religion in whatever way, because they consider in their speech that there's no objective way to love a God. So even though the Catholic Church can teach and preach people to not use contraception, I can still love my God while using contraception. We think there's no reason why you should be able to why church should dictate your life and show you why and make an exclusive barrier. You must only to be a good Christian or good Catholic, you must follow the church, follow the doctrine that we teach you. I'm going to discuss a few things in my speech. So one, how millennial churches allow for personalization of religion and access to each and every form of individual. And I'll do why millennial churches modernization of religion and is the catalyst for not being radical anymore. Right? But before that, one issue that we need to discuss. They say that these things will harm the religion's doctrines as a whole, because now churches will be inauthentic and do not find happiness, and therefore the harm is that people will not be able to find happiness and be able to connect with God. We don't think so, right? Because in the current status quo already, all of us are exposed to things like rave, and we're also exposed to like things like Starbucks and all that stuff. You guys need to prove us how all because I take Starbucks or I pray that somehow stops myself from connecting with God as a whole, right? Because I think that is your choice as a whole, as long as you find happiness, God. So if I want to take Starbucks, if I want to worship God through more hip-hop songs and through raps, then that's my ultimate goal, because that's the way I find happiness in life. Under your side, you create a barrier for people to not be able to enter in. Because I'm someone who's modernized, but once I go to church, people will tell me that I'm wrong, that you guys are not a good Christian because you guys support homosexual rights, that we think that your side is one that doesn't allow people to be able, young children to be able to access churches and be able to do it. But then the comparison is this, because they say that now traditional church lovers will start. They argue that harm is contingent upon proving how make one millennial church will suddenly make churches which hate towards other people. They are not exclusive to other people, and they include everyone and accommodate everyone's wishes. However, traditional churches, they tell you how you should live your life, and they show you how you should pursue your God. So a balance of probability, we think that your side, traditional churches, are that harm millennial churches as a whole, not the converse. If these people are going to get pissed because millennial churches are too modern, then creates an exclusive barrier because of the modernization of the world. And this is the characterization that we're going to do. Because in life now, when we're grown up, when you go to church, everything is very traditional. Most of the time you spend outside of church is with your friends. You listen to hip-hop music and things like that. You guys need to prove how listening to these stuff suddenly make me less Christian than other people. Because of this, and when you're so used to all these values in life that aren't really that harmful, you create a barrier for exclusivity for you to become a religious person, meaning that you opt into becoming a religion because you're so entrenched with all your values in status quo already, meaning that in the end, under your side, the only people who can access churches, be happy being in churches, are people who only are the people who follow all the religious teachings. I think that's extremely harmful. I'll prove that in my point. Yes.
When you detract focus from the biblical teachings, how confused homosexuals in your side find towards one of your millennial churches?
Because first of all, we don't change the effing Bible, right? We obviously keep the key things like we should love God, we should worship God, we should go to church every Sunday, but we should also evolve things. Because if your side wants to fight for homosexuals being oppressed as a whole, for patriarchy to continue, for contraception to not be allowed, women to use because they don't want to be pregnant, under your side, those things are even harmful towards these people. We think that all because you're millennial doesn't mean you don't teach anything about God, right? That means that you modernize yourself and you accommodate certain society right now. If your side is unhappy with homosexuals getting rights, you guys need to justify why that's okay. So first point, allow for personalization of religion. First level, how does personalization occur? Is when you can integrate your normal lifestyle outside of the world with the lifestyle is as a religious person. We think under your side it does not happen. Because in status quo already, when we grow up, it's very contradicting with the stuff that we learn in traditional churches. And we think that contradicting is because in the end, those things don't actually harm your relationship with God. If I want to love God by rapping or by raving, see nothing wrong with it instead of singing it as a classical song. But second level, what does millennial churches allow for it? Because now, if I want to love God, and I don't see myself fitting in a traditional church where people look at me and wonder what type of hairstyles I'm getting, why I'm dressing up as someone who why I'm wearing short shorts and singlets and things like that, I won't be able to actualize my religion because people will always judge me. People will always say that you are not a good Christian because you believe in LGBT rights. Millennial churches help accommodate for these people as a whole. It helps allow anyone who wants to join the church to be able to come in as a whole. But the comparative is this, right? Millennial churches don't actually harm traditional churches, meaning that traditional people still love God. Right? Because traditional people do not like the modernization doesn't mean you need to stop religion being accessed by modernized people. Third level, right? Why is personalization so important? Because the function of religion, and exactly what the Prime Minister said, is to find solace in your times of needs, is to find hope and answers in the world in which you are unable to find any unanswered questions in the world, you're feeling sad, you're feeling depressed. Under your side, all these people who are modernized will not be able to access all these benefits because they connect to God as much as they want to as a whole. Millennial churches help accommodate for any type of person, whether you're a homosexual, whether you're a woman, or whether you're someone who believes in contraception. It's because of millennial churches to allow these people to find solace in life and be able to stop. So the second point, how millennial churches allow for the modernization of religion. Churches moderating in status quo through millennial churches only. If you want, because in status quo problem already is traditional churches that you guys fight for. The main reasons why LGBT people can't get rights are the main reason why a lot of women in Saudi Arabia can't drive, because in the end, it's because all these things are the roots of the cause, because they have the religious rhetoric saying that you guys will be damned to hell. These people face immense discrimination from everyone. How does millennial churches help this? Millennial churches show that you are still able to love your God and be able to be a homosexual at the same time. It proves everyone, and it normalizes the rhetoric that it's okay to go against some religious doctrines if it's better in the world as a whole. Because they consider that there's no objective way of loving a God. Therefore, we think if you want to be a homosexual, if you want to use contraception, do it, because that's your way to actualize your religion as a whole. That's when people will start realizing that there's nothing wrong, because this person still prays to God every Sunday, even though he's homosexual. That's when you interact with new people in this millennial church, learning that these people are no way different than us, and all those teaching that your traditional churches do is not true. You can still be a good Christian even if you don't follow all the biblical teachings. Thank you.
Religion is subjective. We agree to that characterization. However, this debate is misrepresented by side opposition. Individuals can personalize religion and believe in God in each and every way that they will. However, churches are a place of solace and a place of worship that follow one line of belief and one line of prayer. Meaning, individuals choose to believe in contraception. That is a choice that they can have with God. However, this should not harm the beliefs of other individuals who choose to go to church for prayer, who choose to go to church simply to believe and pray in God and not for commercialization. So these guys got the debate wrong. Churches follow one interpretation of that connection with God. Individuals who go to church follow that same line of logic. Individuals who are devoted, individuals who don't believe in homosexual rights, individuals who don't believe in contraceptive rights. We are not saying it is wrong to believe in homosexuality. We are not saying it's wrong to believe in contraception. We are saying that if you go to church and you make that conscious choice, you are an individual who believes in the same principles that a church is preaching. You are an individual who believes in the same principles that a church is pushing forward. The debate isn't about having more homosexuality, having more homosexual rights, having more contraceptive rights. It's about whether churches should modernize and abandon their traditional methods and their traditional cultures, which affects other individuals within these organizations, which create resentment. It's not about what they tried to prove. But then they told us about liberalization, which is also wrong and severely affected their case. Millennial churches do not fight for contraceptive rights. Millennial churches are commercialized churches which still believe in the same things that normal churches do. So your side also has to defend being against homosexuality. So your side also has to defend individuals being shamed in churches, because that is the way churches operate. It's debating in a vacuum, guys. You can't tell us this is a personalized method, because whether it's a millennium church or a normal church, there is no fight for contraceptive rights in this circumstance. Stop our case. But thirdly, Are we against evolution? We are, because we think that it harms the process of which a church functions, and it harms the process which devoted to operate within a church. We are not against these rights, but this debate is in the spirit of what is better for a church and what is better for a devoted person who prays to that, to praise within that organization and who prays within that area of solace. So yes, we do think evolution harmed churches in places like Ireland. They legalized homosexuality and did harm the support for religious organizations and churches. So evolution harms churches, and this debate is what's best for churches. We won't see how yours plays to it. So before I move on to my arguments, after I've taken out my case, sure, your case, sure.
Right. So millennial churches don't normally fight for homosexual rights. But millennial churches go for commercialization, which is apparently against Jesus' rights, meaning that they pander to the wants of society. Why would one, if society already wants homosexual rights in Ireland, why wouldn't millennial churches accommodate that?
See, if homosexuality was fought for millennial churches in Ireland, then other churches would have also fought for homosexuality in Ireland. It's not limited to millennial churches. Commercialization and liberalization are two different things. Commercialization is appealing to younger generations. It has nothing to do with fighting for liberalization within these churches. If liberalization were to be fought, it would have also been fought in another church or another church that wasn't millennial. So why do millennial churches misappropriate the funds and reduce the core purpose of churches in itself? Millennial churches pour large amount of money in an investment into appeal to churches such as Saddleback in Houston, in the United States of America, give things tablets, phones, and even to some extent cars away to individuals. They even subsidize the services that they provide, meaning your cafes and the coffee that you drink is already paid for. What is the problem with this? These are investments that do not have returns. This means that when you take money away from welfare and you take money away from soup kitchens, these are investments that do not give you back a guaranteed return. You are taking money away from people who need. You are taking money away from the resources, the food that they on the ground who are less fortunate. This is why millennial churches are so harmful. Second, it also takes away, it also loses funds through followers and devotees. The individuals who we talked about, the Prime Minister, which he didn't want to engage with. 77% of churches are conservative individuals. That means these are the 77% of individuals who believe that commercialization was wrong, who believe that the Bible taught that commercialization should not happen within churches, and Jesus was against it. You will lose funding from these individuals. These are individuals who make a large portion of the donations within church, of the social workforce that has within churches. Then these are the same people who fund your welfare programs. These are the same people who operate your soup kitchens on a day-to-day basis with churches. When they leave, you create a void which makes it harder for churches to operate because you rely on teenagers to fill in that void. It is unreliable to say a teenager could donate the same amount of money as compared to a devoted follower, or it's unreliable to say a teenager would spend the same amount of time in a soup kitchen trying to help people who are less fortunate. This reduces the appeal that the church has to individuals on the ground. This is how churches lose traction. When individuals go to soup kitchens day by day expecting food and don't get it because another person got a lavish car and a lavish phone. This is how churches lose traction and individuals on the ground lose faith in church organizations. This is when individuals become more aware that the church is fulfilling its soul needs as a place of solace, as a place of prayer, and as a place of worship. This is also when Tory from our Prime Minister that parents will stop sending their children to school to operate because when individuals and families believe that churches and millennial churches don't serve a purpose, they will restrict their children from going to these churches. They will prevent children from going to the church because they don't see a purpose. Meaning these are individuals restricted. The exposure that individuals get within these churches is also limited. Meaning if commercialization does happen, it will happen to rebellious children who choose to go to these churches even when their parents say no, and even when they have exposure that they get is limited because they are rebelling against the choice of their parents. Meaning commercialization can only happen when children reach an age of 18 and they have autonomy. Every individual has the right to conceptualize their own religion. That doesn't mean you need to change the church, because that is one conceptualization of religion that should never be changed.
Some opposition chose to pick an issue in today's debate that they'd lose anyway. I think this debate is not just about how you want to pray or the specification of how you want to pray or how church be about what's best for churches in the long run, even if that means accepting progressive values with the status quo. This is something that they did not want to accept under their side. In fact, they were against progressive values in nature, in principle to begin with their side clearly today's debate. But let's just focus on the kind of burdens that they want to prove, right? First, this is not just this debate, it's all about the best way in which to pray, the best way individuals can connect with the church. We clearly told you already from Luke's speech, there's a subjectivity to how you can connect with God, that churches should never restrict that. I.e., if I feel more comfortable praying to my God with a hip-hop song, or if I feel more comfortable praying to my God in shorts, then I should be allowed to in a structured institution with support structures and with these kind of things that other individuals get when they follow the conventional way of praying. I think there's already a subjectivity that exists within school. We don't think it's harmful to expand this form of subjectivity, right? But they told us what's best for churches. No, sit down. They told us under their side that what's best churches in the first place is that they want individuals to be able to still connect with the church. Right? We think that the church always functions on how it can appeal to the critical masses, right? Or go to a millennial church, more individuals want to go there because they feel more relatable towards that. The church has a vested interest in changing its ways, right? This means that the church wants to be more accountable to the mass and they want to change in terms of the way they pray. We think that's perfectly fine, right? On the second level, we think that Pope Francis has already made progressive values to cater towards the critical mass of society, right? This means that society is more likely to want to opt into progressive values like legalizing gay marriage and stuff like that. Pope Francis, the head of the Catholic Church, already was saying that he would want to support homosexual movements or sit down in the first place. This is society that the church already has a vested interest in changing. We will see how your side caters towards this. Several levels of your to tell us that the method of praying needs to be the same and stuff like that, right? There's no definitive way in which we can qualify how you should relate to a God, right? I.e., if I relate to God in a certain way and I want to find a sanctuary with the Starbucks there, I should be able to do that in my own volition, right? I feel more happy in a place, and this is what I wanted, right? He wanted individuals to feel happy when they pray. So if I feel happy when I pray in an institution with a Starbucks, I should be allowed to exercise my free right in praying to my God in that institution as follows. You don't put these kind of subjective individuals and you don't give them the kind of support structures they deserve. One second, on traditional focus, no, sit down. On second, use these individuals, right? We don't understand. Under your side, you're prioritizing the religion that's anti-Islamic. You're prioritizing the religion that's anti-contraception. You're prioritizing the religion that's homophobic nature. You're prioritizing the religion, the sector of religion that caters towards ultra-conservative values that harm the progression of society in the first place. If this means that we have to make a trade-off and we have to prioritize the younger generation, which wants to cater towards progressive values, will not help religious individuals, but help garner supporters who are not currently religious because they can't function with these values in the first place. We are willing to make that trade-off. That idea they had on exposure to religion and how parents will stop sending their children, right? Because that's the extreme scenario, the parents will stop sending their children, right? Everything on the second level, there are many differences of Christianity already, right? If I'm a Catholic, there's a Protestant church there. I'm going to stop sending my kid to Catholic church because there's a Protestant church there in the first place, right? I think there are already many different sectors to a society. I think parents still send their children to these churches in that instance, right? A question inside opposition then, if you're against the core principle of how the Bible follows, right? In the first place, there is no definitive way. Bible itself is defined so many different ways. Catholics who pray to Virgin Mary, there are people that don't, right? We think in this instance, are you principally against the different sectors of society that exist within CSO? Sure, Kishan.
Everybody perceives the Bible differently. That's why we have different tenets of religion and different ways to believe and perceive. That's why we have different churches and different ideals to believe. So your burden is to prove why is it okay to violate these tenets and there are individuals within these churches who choose to pray in that specific way.
Look, millennial churches cater for the society that wants to pray this way, right? They don't change the God or wanting to have a structure in the first place, right? These things still exist within millennial churches. They just add something where I want, if I as an individual feel more likely to want to go there, I opt into it. I'm not forcing other individuals who don't want to pray there in the first place, right? They had this whole issue that I don't even know why it came up in today's debate on funding the church and things like soup kitchens, right? That's contingent on the basis that you get less support in the first place, right? Because there's a subjectivity on how individuals want to opt towards things in the first place, right? You don't take into account the individuals that actually distance themselves from church in the first place because they don't want to abide by the kind of laws that they currently propagate, right? It means individuals who still want to believe in things like homosexual rights and things like that will still supporting the millennial churches still individuals want like Starbucks and stuff like that will still support millennial churches to begin with, right? This is where your funding comes from. We don't think you're going to stop funding soup kitchens in this place, right? We think you're going to be able to do this. You're still going to be able to get the kind of support for these kind of altruistic acts that you wanted in the first place, right? The question then becomes, right, what's more important, Generation Y or the ultra-conservative generation, right? Body that you want to protect, you lose the future relatability and influence that this religion can then cater to a society. Because like or not, Generation Y is going to be a generation of the future. It's going to depend on how your religion will be viewed. It's going to depend on how the amount of influence and the amount of political traction that your religion will garner in the first place. We think above everything else is not the harms that the traditional generation gives. You should run towards them because it's in the best interest of the religion in the first place, something you wanted to protect. And then the strong he told us ridiculous thing, right? He told us we don't want to support evolution of religion in this place. That means they don't want Pope Francis, they don't want these kind of things, right? This means side government never wants to be able to act homosexuals. Because they don't even want millennial churches who are in the first place more moderate than normal churches to begin with, right? They want to have an ultra-conservative society who will never liberate and they will never be able to protect these kind of minorities under your right. We think you make it extremely harmful, right? And then they told us that we misrepresented what millennial churches are in the first place. And we said that millennial churches don't believe in homosexuals, right? Okay, fine. Even if that's your worst case scenario, right? We think millennial churches at least ponder towards society, right? They're likely to want to change values to cater towards society wants in the first place. Normal churches, the kind of churches you wanted to protect, will never do that. They'll stay entrenched want to evolve. Millennial churches have a vested interest in relating to a society. They have a vested interest in changing to cater towards what society wants. This is the kind of progressive values that we wanted to have an extreme higher likelihood of being achieved under our side, your side for sick minorities, and you harm them. This is my thinking that came out of teaching rebelliousness, right? That there are the people that parents won't send that and you will only cater to a minority, right? We don't think that's true. We think that individuals want to go to that anyway. We think that our parents still want to send their children and we'll get a significant amount of people, right? And we think that even if we don't get a significant amount of people, a minority that can cater towards these churches is better than no minority at all. We think they could be.
Yeah.
When I'm most in need, I need worship and not a macchiato. Millennial churches fail to provide the most basic function of any religious institution, the understanding of God, which you cannot replace with flashy inauthenticity. In my speech today, I'll provide or discuss on two issues with many questions on them. The first issue is a modernization of churches progressive towards religion. The first level on that. Do we really forward progressive ideas to clear up the confusion coming from opposition? The distinction is that your millennial churches still do not change your doctrine. Therefore, any ideas that go against homosexuals, any ideas that you think are not progressive, will still remain as part of the teachings of Christianity. What millennial churches do provide is a false impression of Christianity, which makes it very harmful towards your cases. Because if you want it to be taken seriously, then do it in a serious light, instead of backing that, instead of clouding that or blanketing it with the idea that the church is progressive, when it really isn't. Because when people start thinking the church is progressive, when people start thinking the church is moving in the right direction, when it's not, it's just increasing the amount of lights it has, then you're not going to make any change. Instead, you reduce the need for people to want to fight for that change. But we also think that if your biggest audience in making that change is the younger people into these churches based on the wrong information, will only increase the indoctrination that these conservative churches has towards these younger peoples. They come into your churches, they're still exposed to your conservative values, and they go out as, I don't know, conservatives. The second thing, no thank you, on will you be able to conceptualize? Yes. You can conceptualize. We're not going to ban you from doing that. But a church is a place of worship for the largest majority. We don't cater to individuals, we cater to communities, to groups. Therefore, the church's main function is religion and a means of understanding it.
That's what we try to give to you so you can make your own forms or conceptualization. The reason why you make it harmful is people can't make their decisions anymore. They can't base it on something that is relevant. Church, because when they go to that church, they're exposed to all these concerts, towards all these other forms of branding and advertising that remove the value or remove the necessity of actually paying attention to the teachings. Your harm is you prevent others the ability to conceptualize, because not everyone goes to church for games, not everyone goes to church for Starbucks, not everyone goes to church to, I don't know, whatever can provide. Thank you. One final thing, on individual conceptualization. If people really wanted to conceptualize through concerts, Starbucks, and shopping, they would go to a mall, something they can already provide all of these different things. But the reason why they come to a church is they have a distinct, nuanced relationship with the church. There's something they want at the end of the day from going towards an institution of worship. Therefore, they want more than a show. They of brokenness and confusion. They come to church instead of them starting to doubt their own beliefs. Therefore, when they go to church, they want someone to clear that confusion. They want someone to give them an understanding or some of buoy, that's what it's called, buoy, to pull them back up from that state. Therefore, you lure people into churches on the wrong basis, and they make misinformed decisions of joining that religion, or misinformed decisions of helping themselves after this. But the final thing, even if you have more people coming in, you'll lose a wholesome progression, because churches aren't made up of separate sects, even though they are. If you really want progression, you need to help everyone progress alongside with the church. But in your side, children of parents who don't support millennial churches aren't being given to your churches because they think they're incompetent in giving religious values. Other followers want to leave because they think that their daily routine of learning the religious values or teaching in their method is also going to be hampered. Therefore, more people are going to leave churches. To increase the divide between people that you're trying to unite. You're not going to have the young minority and the larger traditional majority cohesing together in these churches, because it only caters towards your minority that focuses on the flashy light and entertainment. When the divide increases, then the modernization is also hampered and halted. And before I move on to the second issue, is
if you're unhappy with millennials just luring and misinforming people, if traditional churches going to poor vulnerable people, giving them food and saying that our God gave food, therefore you come in if you want food for our access for our teachers.
But that means in your side, you're also principled against giving food to poor. But we on our side, as the church, you give food to the poor because they're poor. We give food to the poor because they're hungry. We give food to the poor because they need food and not an iPad. Which leads to the second issue. Will you increase the number of followers? Firstly, you lose the more powerful audience, because at a face level, you seeming cooler is good, but it won't bring you really far in as to how much power and influence you'll have. Therefore, you lose the biggest lobbying people who can actually give money towards these churches. You reduce the power of churches to be propagated by the individuals who have power in politics, and that's where you reduce their ability to help more individuals. But the second thing is that even if you want to be fascist, you cannot come at the expense of you giving up on principles as a church. We don't want churches to make difficult trade-offs between you having more iPads, giving more food and stuff towards poor people. These forms of decisions are immoral. We need to always prioritize our funds towards people who need it, towards people who actually have to come under the protection of the church. But not only does it come with the efficiency and efficacy of the church in helping other individuals, it's the principles. The church is beautiful. Religion is beautiful. What it can, in terms of making them change their life, in terms of making them understand what God can give, is wonderful. Or you always will detract focus from it. You only focus on the exterior, not the crux, not the core. And final level, that even if you do give the ability to conceptualize, you forfeit them actually being devoted. What are they devoted to? Your followers in opposition. They are devoted to the Starbucks. They're devoted to the shopping. They're devoted to whatever can give them some more. But they're not devoted to God. And that's the main reason why I want to increase the influence of the church, to get more followers to come to you. What will be the marketing strategy? If you come to my church, we'll give you more marketers than Paradigm Mall. We don't think that's conceptualization should work. You need people to come in based on how they feel about God, on how they feel about the religion, not whether they're hungry or not, and whether they want to hang out with their friends in a place of convening. You remove the commune as a group that really believes in a unified to love their religion.
Yeah.
It was horrible for Sai government to come up and tell us that the main reason why religion exists is to create that form of society that allows religion to tell you, we accept you, and we want you to be able to beloved God that you so love the most. But yet, in the same breath, they can actually tell you, we are going to sacrifice the majority of individuals, which is the Y generation, because they live in the same way that we used to pray to God as a whole. And that's even more harmful on their side, because on their side, they changed the meaning of religion. And that's not true. That's what is the meaning of religion? We see this in all religion as a whole, and they serve as one purpose: for you to be a support structure, teach you the principles of how you should be a good individual and practice certain moral values as a human being as a whole. These are moral values and these are principles that all religion carry, because they realize the aim in religion carries is to be there and be a support structure towards individuals to allow accommodate you in the hardship of values that you want to carry. We want to help you be a better person as a whole. Considering so, let's analyze. You need to ensure for you to accept all those benefits, for you to be able to preach out to individuals about the good moral values that you can do so, you need to allow them to be able to personalize themselves with the religion as a whole. But your side prevents on several levels. Why so? Because exactly the idea that individuals are not allowed to personalize themselves towards religion. The harm towards that is you only allow individuals and you only allow the preaching of what the aim of religion is supposed to do in one sector of society, and you cater to that one sector of society as a whole. On a comparison to our side, we told you on our side that yes, traditional churches as well, but we need to cater to multiple individuals in society. We need to cater because the aim of the religion is to teach the moral values that exist within society, that exist within the church. We need to allow you to be able to relate to the church that is teaching towards you. Does that harm the traditional church? We don't think so. If anything, it gains the support. And why do churches always focus on the support of church? We always have to analyze this on several levels. The support of the church always really want to gain more because they want the sustainability of that particular region. This when religion goes to indigenous tribe, actually preaches towards them. Also, in terms of missionaries as a whole, we prove to you that the churches always want sustainability within a particular society. Sit down, sit. Also, considering so, then we need to analyze, because they told us that we're going to lose support under our side. We don't think so. If anything, we cater towards the needs of individuals on the ground. If under our side, we allow individuals to go to traditional churches if they wish to do so. We also like to go to Millennial churches if you wish to do so. And our side clearly caters for the needs of individuals. If yours tells individuals, churches can only exist in one way, and the one way is in the tradition. Then you always expect individuals that believe in other churches or believe in other methods for you to believe in God. You are decided will lose the support of churches as a whole. But also, we need to analyze churches numbers. You need to include the Y generation as a whole. You need to include this one generation, because these are individuals that are going to continue the religion in the near future, are going to continuously become the new leaders of your church, are going to preach the church in the way that they want to. Considering important, do we then change our moral values? Even if it comes to that stance, at changing our core values, do we take that stance? We say yes. Because the thing is that if we see within society, the multiple individuals, we give an example, US, 37 states have already legalized same-sex marriage. Do we then cater towards those individuals? Or do we still remain stagnant within society? With these words under your side, that stagnant will cause society to say, let's dump religion because we see that religion to progress of society. It's even worse within your side, when individuals find no significant value in religion because they realize religion don't want to move forward with society. Worse under your side. But before that, yes.
No church legislates conceptualization. Church simply fuel education to base them off of. want to provide a neutral method instead of simply pinpointing focus to very discrete area.
Exactly. So if your side supports the idea of individuals wanting to learn through the process so they can connect with God, then our side caters towards a form of individuals. We told you in status quo. And under our side, we never ever changed the core, we never ever wanted to change the way that we actually functions. Yeah, we always functions for the best of individuals as a support structure. Now we need to analyze how effective is the structure. Moving on, right? Let's analyze the idea on how it's present on their side and present to our side. In firstly, two levels, right? Firstly, is the idea that your side shows inability for church to be able to progress within society will further harm the sustainability of it. What does that continuously do? The sustainability of the church, of the core principles the church carries in terms of having number of followers. That's why they always tell one of the principles that we should always preach to individuals so that we can garner support from other people and show them the light. If under your side, take away the core principle because you only want to do one way or only one way in terms of showing people how to pray, then your side also goes against the core principles of religion as a whole. But secondly, it's the idea of the harm that exists within your side. Meaning, people on the ground will start generally, if they abandon religion as a whole, then you lose the bigger side as a whole. But also, right, the exactly of individuals wanting to actually progress, and the church doesn't progress with them, then you have the sustainability of the church, and the church being able to coexist with society. What is harm? We told that exactly society is. If homosexuals are saying that we are willing to rights as long as we don't want to harm the church as a whole, but the church is saying that we don't want activities and we only want ourselves. It proves that the church doesn't want to compromise individuals on the ground. It proves that, that the church doesn't want to compromise with the multiple individuals on the ground, yet just to harm them. With this, are worse under your side in terms of the sustainability, but it's also worse in terms of the number of individuals that you can carry and you can want to support, and the individuals that actually want to support you as a whole. But moving on, right? Even their best case scenario, and yes, their best case scenario is that they still within the traditional church and they choose to pull the Y generation in that church. How effective is their teaching under our church? Because the thing is that if under our side we can choose it in a different way, at least we can still preach them the moral values of God. At least it's still effective and they still can gain form of some form of knowledge from God. At least it's gain some form of knowledge. Under your side, you force them to only learn under your side, but they don't learn anything and they don't learn the importance of God. Then your side is actually unable to even cater for these needs of individuals. Your side does not cater to multiple individuals, but your side is a side that makes it particular society ineffective and cannot to God with these was under your side. Also, right, it's exactly why your side only caters one side, which makes it ineffective, especially for religion. So, but not least, let's comparison for both sides. Because both sides talk to you about how we want a form of support in this society. We do it in form of support, comes individuals choosing to support your church as a whole, choosing to believe in the moral values and methods of how you treat society as a whole. That form of support from half the society is the Y generation as a whole. You need to include Y generation for be able to support your church and the sustainability of your church. But second comparison is the idea of the feasibility of the church as a whole. On our side, we told you that we can do the churches, traditional churches and millennial churches as a whole. They need us to do these of society, realize these are parts of society that very much matters and understand God's in a different way. But do they harm each other if they believe it differently? We don't see a harm within a particular house, within the particular different structure of wanting to believe in God. We're extremely proud to host.
Right, I thank both teams for their substantive speeches. I read by now.
There are Methodists, Anglicans, Catholics, and Protestants. All these people differ in beliefs. Some are okay with contraceptions, some are not okay with contraceptions. Each of these has one similarity, that no matter how we appease the people in the market of people who come to your church, you still love God, you still come to church every Sunday, and we still come together. Why can't millennial churches be one of these types of things? We never understood that coming from that side. Before I move on to the three issues that came out from this debate. Number one, why evolution is the only way to modernize a religion. Number two, why should we prioritize? In any case, we have to prioritize one side of the society. And number three, why is the aftermath of millennial churches? But before that, we just need to establish one clear thing. We already think that it's safe to assume that millennial churches already want to modernize and moderate themselves, because for the reason that they only care about popularity. The characterization from their side. That's why you make shiny lights and things like that. Therefore, we don't think you'll be homophobic. We don't think you would ban contraception. You wouldn't allow contraception because then you'll be seen as the West a lot. Therefore, we think people, since they want a market and since they want a lot of people to come, modern teenage people who are starting to accept homosexuality as a whole, we think these are the bastions as a whole to be able to encourage more and more modernizations of religion. First of all, they say that we misdirect us, and this goes on to the first issue. They say that we say that their side doesn't have modernization and they don't have personalization whatsoever. They say that their side has it, but they say that their side doesn't want evolution. But we think that's very contradictory, because evolution is the key way and the gateway for you to personalize your religion in the first place. Because religion evolves, that means it accepts more and more people. It means it moderates itself as a whole. Under yours, if it doesn't evolve whatsoever, it's only exclusive to people not generation Y, but people only who believe in a very staunch, bigoted type of beliefs as a whole and bigoted types of doctrines. So therefore, we think that under your side already doesn't allow the personalization of religion as a whole. But what did they say? They say that that their side, under our side, don't have personalization. Yes. Well, here's the thing, and here goes to the second issue. Who should we prioritize if we have to? Traditional people, millennial type of people. First, you would say it is the traditional churches who are the people who are oppressing other people. That you are the people who shouldn't be a Christian if you are homosexual. Who you are a person who is not worthy to become one of us because you don't opt to each and every one of our doctrines. Because they have their own beliefs and they don't do anything opposed towards these traditional churches. They prioritize you whatever, they accept you no matter what. But then also, we think that one thing that Atira said that they didn't respond to is that all these things are old beliefs as a whole. The main reason why millennial churches are so popular is because it's new, future generations of people come in. So you want that place where you can go to, yes, you can drink a macchiato before. Yes, that doesn't matter because you still get to preach to God and you're the future generation as a whole. So if your side wants to prioritize one thing, why are you prioritizing the generation that number one is going to die off? Number two, the people who oppress people as a whole, who tell you how to live your life and tell you how to pray to your God. But lastly, what is the aftermath of millennial churches? They assume many things. That number one, it dilutes the doctrines of religion. People will opt out, things like that. We think that in any case, if people will opt out, they'll opt out of millennial churches, go to other churches as a whole. We don't see why that's a problem as a whole. But also the people who want to opt into churches but are excluded from it, those people who are always told you guys can't be Christians, they can opt into other things. So we think that millennial churches isn't something that stops you from going to different types of places. It's more of an option for you to opt into it. You want to go this one, but then they talk to you about how it's bad for commercialization. Because in the end, you're expecting people to come based on your fancy lights and all. He said that if you go to these places, in the end, you won't pray to God, you drink a macchiato as a whole. And then at the same speech, he also said that then in the end, you go to a mall. If you, those things already in a mall, if you want to go to, if you want to go for it as a whole, we allow you the access to be able to do whatever you want, to be able to listen to rap music and still pray to God, because you wouldn't be able to pray to God you wouldn't be able to pray to God in a goddamn mall. We are very proud to oppose, yeah.
Religion is a very personal thing. That's why we agree there is an interpretation that varies when it comes to religion. That's why there's of different forms of churches. That is why we accept that individuals who follow these different forms of churches have a right to pray within their existence. That is why we accept that religion is a belief and churches are a place of solace. This is why side opposition got the debate wrong. Churches are a place of solace and a place of exercising one's belief towards God. We don't deny that personalization should exist. What we deny is that personalization and the way you interpret religion should affect the way other individuals interpret religion. Because churches are made up of individuals who have a collective opinion. Churches are made up of individuals who follow one line of logic. Meaning to say, in short, if you do believe that you believe in contraception, we are not saying that opinion is wrong. We are just saying that you should not have the autonomy to change the opinions of other individuals within these churches. Meaning to say, we argue that churches in itself exist as a place of solace. Churches should not be commercialized. Churches should not be liberalized, because this is a place where traditional cultures of religion are exercised. That is why from our side, we told you a few things. We told you, one, we told you the outcomes of millennial churches do not favor followers. And we think that opposition severely neglected this, because we told you the funds that millennial churches continue to get from will deplete. The individuals within millennial churches will continue to leave. And they chose to ignore this. But it's important, because these individuals will just leave and go to traditional churches. But individuals choose to leave and go to traditional churches continues to hold your millennial churches? What continues to allow your millennial churches to support itself? Because when traditional followers, individuals who fund your churches, traditional followers, individuals who operate your soup kitchens leave, what church is there left? Teenagers, individuals who can't fill in that void, a church that is reduced to its bare essentials, cannot cater to welfare, towards poverty, and towards individuals on the ground. This is not a church, Mr. Speaker. This is a commercialized form of prayer. We are not against it. What we argue is that when churches come in as a place of solace, as a place of providing help with the less fortunate, that is what a church should be. It should not be changed for the sake of certain individuals' opinions. It should be accepted the way it is, because that is how individuals perceive churches. We are not against evolution. It's against evolution. It harms the way a church functions, and it harms the people who can go into a church. Meaning to say, in Ireland, meaning to say, the liberalization happens in the United States of America. This harms the support that exists within churches. We are not prioritizing traditional followers over the younger generation. We are prioritizing tradition. That is how a church operates, and that is how a church functions. So the debate isn't a trade-off of having multiple beliefs and having a separate church on our side. It is a trade-off of having a large amount of churches that believe in one particular thing, and whether they should be changed for the belief of one or two individuals with a separate belief. So the conclusion is, if you're an individual who believes you want in conception, you can believe in God in that particular way. Why should your belief extend to another individual? Why should your belief harm the opinion of another individual who just goes to church to pray, who just goes to church to follow the teachings of other individuals within that area? The answer is, it doesn't. Individuals can be allowed to pray in liberal manners, but churches should stay the way they are. They should follow the preaching of the Bible. They should follow the way the Bible operates. Individuals can liberalize, churches shouldn't. But even if that wasn't enough, millennial churches have no guarantee in liberalizing, because if they were to liberalize, so would any other church in today's world.
for a while, this will happen without your task. Good job.
Having other no, there's another funny event going on there. Oh God. But we could meet more people there.